I was in the 4th grade, staring out the window during history class. That's when I saw a dot. Couldn't make out what it was, but it crashed into one of the towers, making a huge smoke cloud. I was young, I couldn't really process what was going on. All I did was stare, confused out at what was going on. No one else seemed alarmed in my classroom, so I wasn't either. "It's time for computer class," my teacher said, standing up from her desk as we lined up in 2 lines in front of the door. As we walked out into the hallway, my computer class teacher came running up with a paper in her hand. She stopped in front of my teacher, paper covering her mouth as her eyes grew wide. "My mother's in there," she screeched, running in the opposite direction, leaving us all in the hall confused. "Back in the classroom," my computer teacher calmly stated as we turned around, taking back our seats. I looked out the window to find that all I could see was a huge cloud of black smoke. Everyone began to notice, pointing out the window saying, "What's that? What's going on? That isn't normal. Take your seats," my computer teacher shouted as we sat down. She walked out of the room wheeling in a television. Everyone got excited thinking we were having a movie day, when instead she turned on the news. Everyone groaned in the classroom, putting their heads down on the desk. All I heard from the news report was, "A plane just hit the towers." The rest was cut off by the loudspeaker going off in our classroom. "Attention students and faculty, we are under lockdown. This is not a drill. Please take this very seriously. Once again, we are under lockdown." Everyone began to panic. The computer teacher turned the TV off. My actual teacher came running in the classroom with tears flowing down her face. We all huddled underneath our desks in the dark. It was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. We all stared at each other, wondering what was going on. All I knew was something bad was happening. Our teacher covered the windows and the doors, sat down at her desk with her head down. One of the students whispered loudly over to the teacher. "What's going on?" he questioned. The teacher placed an index finger over her lips. "Please be quiet," she answered. The time went on, maybe perhaps an hour, when the loudspeaker finally rung through, disrupting the silence. "Students, parents are now coming to pick you up. As I say your name, please come down to the office." Names began to be read as students in my room began packing their things, heading out the door and out of sight. I sat sadly under my desk, knowing that no one was going to pick me up. My mother worked for the high school, and my dad worked at a PSC&G in a few towns away. I would be stuck here. More students filed out, running to their parents and crying. They were scared. The whole scene that you can see out the window was scary. "Ryan and Pinkley B, please report to the office." I was shocked to hear my name, but realized that whenever my mom couldn't pick me up, Ryan's mother was my guardian in her place. We walked downstairs together to where his mom stood, holding onto his brother's hand. "Time to go home, guys," she smiled, leading us out of school. Ryan looked up at his mom as we began to walk home to Ryan's house. "What happened, Mom?" he asked as I saw people outside of their homes, staring off at the New York skyline with tears in their eyes. Parents were crying, holding their children as they picked them up from school. My stomach was in knots. Were my parents okay? "Some very bad people flew a plane into the Twin Towers," she stated. "Why?" Ryan asked. "I don't know. It's horrible. People are stuck in the building. Many people died already." She sighed, her face a bit red from holding in tears. Ryan stopped asking questions, looking down at the ground as he let his 4th grade brain register what exactly that all meant. I couldn't even see the towers anymore. A thick fog of smoke covered the now disappearing skyline. "Where's my mom?" I asked her. "She's in lockdown in the high school. I don't know when it will be over." I could feel my stomach tighten. "Is my dad close to it?" "Sorta, but he should be fine." I stayed in silence for the rest of the walk home. Ryan hooked up his PlayStation so I could play Spyro, a game he recently got me into. As I waited for my parents to pick me up, I kept looking out the window of his home, seeing the smoke take over the city. There was nothing more to see. I walked out of his room to his mom, who was watching the news on the TV with a huge frown on her face. I looked at the TV to find there were people holding hands and jumping from the tower. "This isn't a movie, is it?" I asked, as she silently shook her head no. I could feel the tears well up in my eyes as I ran back to Ryan's room. "What's the matter?" "People are jumping from the tower," I answered. He walked out into the living room to see what I was talking about as I sat down on the ground waiting for my parents. I got out of class in the afternoon. I waited an hour, that turned into 2 hours, that turned into 3 hours, that turned into 4 hours. Finally, the doorbell went off and my mom came running up the stairs. "Pinkley, it's time to go home." I ran to her, giving her a hug as she made small chat with Ryan's mom. A lot of sighs and the shaking of heads took place. She took me home where she explained to me the events going on. All I could do was stare at her mortified. We still haven't heard from my dad, and he usually got home around 4. He got home around 8 p.m. I was relieved to have him home. He said he was let off as soon as the towers got hit, but so many people are trying to flee the city to come to New Jersey that he was stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the way home. Happy to have everyone home, we sat and watched the news in silence. The atmosphere changed that day, I could feel it. Everyone didn't know what to say, what to do, how to act. It was just a fallen silence on my small little town. It was horrific. It was something I will remember for the rest of my life. And I still keep all those who were lost in my heart, hoping that they have found peace, for they were just normal people heading to work on a normal day to have their lives wrongfully ripped away from them. Never forget. And that's my story.